Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ultami Ismayani Febryana from Class 4A TOEFL Preparation. Today I will explain a little bit about Section 1, which is included in the TOEFL test handout. So, TOEFL test is a test used to measure the level of English proficiency of non-active speakers of English. It is required primarily by English language college and universities. Additionally, institutions such as government agencies, business, or scholarship programs may require this test. There are two versions of TOEFL test commonly used in Indonesia, which are paper-based tests or PBT and computer-based tests or CBT. The differences between PBT and CBT are the number of questions and the time they have. PBT has 140 questions with 115 minutes to finish the test, and CBT usually has about 94 until 135 questions with 125 until 170 minutes to finish the test. TOEFL test commonly used in Indonesia usually has three parts, which is follows listening comprehension. This part of the full test aims to demonstrate the test taker's ability to understand spoken English. The takers must listen to various types of passage on a tape recording and respond to multiple choice questions about the passage. And structure and written expression. This part of the TOEFL test aims to demonstrate the test taker's ability to recognize grammatically correct English. They must either choose the correct way to complete sentences or find errors in sentences. And the third is reading comprehension. This part of the TOEFL test aims to demonstrate the test taker's ability to produce correct, organized, and meaningful English. They must answer multiple choice questions about the ideas and the meanings of words in reading passage. This part usually consists of 50 questions in PBT and 44 until 60 questions in CBT. And as stated before, the listening section consists of 50 questions that function to test the ability to understand spoken English in typical interactions, talks, and conversation. The audio in this section is presented only one time, and test taker may not take notes. Furthermore, this section takes about 35 minutes between two people about casual topics. In part B, the test taker will hear longer conversation between two people about casual topics. In part C, the test taker will hear short talks by one person about school life or an academic subject. After that, it will be followed by a number of questions about the topic, and the test taker has to choose the best answer for each question based on the short talks. General strategies. There are mainly 6 general strategies to success in the listening section of the TOEFL test, which are be familiar with the direction and know where the easier and more difficult questions are generally found. Okay, the first one is be familiar with the direction. Um, so the direction on every TOEFL textbook are the same. So it is not necessary to spend time reading the direction carefully when you take the test. The direction of part A will hear a short conversation followed by a single question, and the direction of part B will hear a long conversation followed by several questions. Furthermore, the direction of part C will tell you hear a monologue followed by a number of questions. Now, where the easier and more difficult questions are generally found within each part of listening comprehension section on the paper test, the question generally progress from easy to difficult. Okay, this is part A, and listen to each short dialogue. Focus on the second line of the conversation because the answer to the question is generally found in the second line. The first one is keep in mind that the correct answer is probably a restatement of a keyword or idea in the second line of the dialogue. Think of possible restatements and keep in mind that certain structures and expressions are tested regularly in the short dialogues, which are structures, functional expressions, idiomatic expression. Even if you do not understand the complete dialogue, you can still find the correct answer. And if you only understand a few words or ideas in the second line, choose the answer that contains a restatement of those words or ideas. And if you don't understand anything at all in the second line of the conversation, choose the answer that sounds the most different from what you hear. Never choose an answer because it sounds like what you hear in the dialogue, and be prepared for the next question. And you have only 12 seconds between questions. And this one is the next about preview the answers to the listening. While you are looking at the answer, you should try to do the following. The first is anticipate the topics of the conversations you will hear. Listen carefully to the first line of the conversation. The first line of the conversation is the main idea, subject or topics of the conversation, and you will often be asked to answer such questions. Second one is as you listen to the conversation, draw conclusions about the situation of the conversation, analyze who is talking, where the conversation takes place, or when it takes place, where the conversation takes place, or when it takes place. As you listen to the talk, follow along with the answer in your textbook and try to determine the correct answer. Detailed questions are generally answered in order in the conversation, and the answer often sounds the same as what is said in the recording program. And there are various materials that you should learn to complete the listening comprehension section perfectly. In part A about short conversation, the first one is second line, synonym and similar sound. So the strategies mentioned above the state that the answer to the question is usually in the second line of the conversation. Additionally, the answer can often be found in synonyms of the keywords used in the conversation. It is important to avoid incorrect choices that sound similar but have different meanings. And the second is who, what, and where. In this question type, the answer is not directly state is that you need to draw a conclusion by analyzing clues provided in the conversation. Common conclusions include identifying the speaker, predicting what will likely happen next, and determining the problem location of the conversation based on the given clues. The third is negatives. Negatives expression, double negative expression, and nearly negative expressions are frequently encountered in listening part A. In response to a negative statement, the most common correct response is a positive statement that includes a word with an opposite meaning. In the next slide, I will show you about the table of types of negative expression. Now next to the fourth, there is functions. An expression of agreement, uncertainty, suggestion, and surprise are common in listening part A, so you should become familiar with them. And in the next slide also I will show about the table of expression of agreement, expression of uncertainty and suggestion, and expression of surprise. Next, fifth is contrary meanings. In listening part A, conversation about wishes and untrue condition or conditional sentences may occur. These conditions imply the opposite of the true situation, creating a contrast between what is stated in the conversation and its actual meaning. And the next slide also I will show you about the table of wishes and untrue or conditional sentences. Next, six is idiomatic language. In listening part A may include questions that involve two and three part verbs. That first consists of a verb and one or more particles that alter the verb's meaning. Such questions can be challenging for students as the addition of particles change the verb's meaning in an idiomatic manner. Idioms, which describe one situation but are applied to various contexts, can also pose difficulties as they appear to describe one situation while actually referring to another. So this one is the table of types of negative expression. We can see the keyword of negative is regular negative, not or not. Other negatives, nobody, no, nothing, never negative, and etc. And the example is Tom is not sad about the result. The meaning not sad is happy. And second is double negative. Negative word not, no, none, and a negative prefix. Example in and these two negative verbs, neither or not or either. Example is he didn't like the unclean office. Didn't like unclean office is same like clean office. The third is almost negative. The keyword is hardly, barely, scarcely, only, rarely, and seldom. The example like there is hardly any food in the refrigerator. The meaning is almost none. And the fourth is comparative negative. The keyword is more and are. The example is no one is more beautiful than she is. The meaning is she is the most beautiful. And in the right is expression of agreement. This is the positive agreement is so do I, me too, I'll say isn't it, you can say that again. And negative agreement is neither do I don't either. And That one is expression of uncertainty and suggestion. The example of uncertainty is, isn't it? As far as I know, as far as I can tell. The suggestion is like, why not? Let's, why don't you? And the next one is expression of surprise. Like this one is verb be, modal present tense, past tense, and perfect tense. In be, emphatic form is with emphasis. Example, then he is here. Like the meaning is, I thought he was not here. And modal is with emphasis. The example is, then you can go. The meaning is, I thought you could not go. Present tense, do plus es with emphasis. The example is, then you do play tennis. The meaning is, I thought you did not play tennis. And the verb is past tense. Example, emphatic form is did with emphasis. And the example is, then she did read it. The meaning is, I thought she had not read it. The verb perfect tense, emphasis form, have with emphasis. The example is, then he has gone there. The meaning is, I thought he had not gone there. When surprise is expressed, it implies that the speaker did not expect some time to be true. Okay, this is the table of wishes. This is the point is, an affirmative wish implies a negative reality. A negative wish implies an affirmation reality. A past tense verb implies a present reality. A past perfect tense verb implies a past reality. So the example, the first one is, I wish I had time to help. The meaning is not time to help. The second one is, I wish I did not have time to help. The meaning is time to help. The third is, I wish he were at home. The meaning is not at home. And the fourth is, I wish he had been at home. The meaning is was not at home. And this one is the table of untrue or conditional sentences. Point first is, an affirmative condition implies a negative reality. The example is, if she were at home, she could do it. And the meaning that she is not at home. The second one is, a negative condition implies an affirmative reality. The example is, if she were not home, she couldn't do it. And the meaning is, she is at home. And the third is, a past tense implies a present reality. The example, if I had money, I would buy it. The meaning is like, do not have money. The fourth is, a past perfect verb implies a past reality. Example, if I had money, I would have bought it. Like the meaning is, did not have money. And the last is, had can be used without if. Example, had I had money, I would have bought it. And the meaning is, did not have money. Okay, this is part B about long conversation. Um, Before starting listening part B, it is beneficial to have an idea of the expected topics. Anticipating the topics, such as school life, school issues, or travel plans can greatly change your comprehension. A useful strategy is to glance at the answers in the textbooks prior to listening and try to identify the conversation topics. Additionally, Anticipating the specific questions and listening attentively for their answer can greatly aid in answering individual question in listening part B. And furthermore, as you listen to each conversation in listening part B, you should be trying to set the situation in your mind. Similarly to part A, you should be thinking the following thoughts. The first is who is talking and when does the conversation probably take place? Where does the conversation probably take place? And what is the source of information for the conversation? In part C, in part C short talks, before listening, uh, similar to part B, so anticipating the topics in listening part C can significantly improve overall comprehension. It is beneficial to try and anticipate the topics of the talks, such as American history, literature, or aspects of school life. A useful strategy is to quickly review the answers in the textbooks prior to listening and identify the expected topics of the talks. Additionally, anticipating the specific question in listening attentively for the answer, as done in listening part B, can greatly enhance the ability to answer individual questions in listening part C. And the second is while listening. In listening part C, it is important to focus on the topic or main idea of each talk, similar to what was done in listening part B. By listening attentively to the first part of the talk, which usually contains a topic sentence, you should actively think about the topic. Asking yourself about the topic while carefully listening to the initial portion of the talk will aid in understanding and comprehension. And that's all about um, section 1 from TOEFL Handout. That's all from me and thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.